Hi, guys. Today I want to talk a lot about connection with other women and how important it is that we get to a place that we feel safe to be seen, to share and be transparent and vulnerable with one another, and not put on all these masks that we keep wearing when we are in what should be really beautiful opportunities of connection. And why do I think that's important? Or why do any of us think that's important? I don't know. I just know that before I began my weight loss journey, I had women in my life that I think other people could probably look at those relationships that I had and say, yeah, there was a lot of connection there. She's a girl's girl, and she spends a lot of time with her friends or, her female relationships. But when I look at, while I was still so heavily masked with my fat, with my fear, with my need to present a certain way, when it was all so performative, those relationships were very measured. They were very controlled. The stories that were told, shared, the vulnerability that I allowed was completely orchestrated. Did I know during those times that that's what was happening? I don't think so. I can't say for sure. I can't say for sure because I was never able to have a conversation like this with another woman to really unpack it. But what I can say is that now that I am having those connections with other women, it's night and day. And what has happened as a result of that, why it's been so important for me, is that when I can be vulnerable and transparent with a woman I trust, and I trust her to do the same for me, I'm open to her feedback. I am open to her insights. I am open to her wisdom. And I am out of that comparison game. I'm outside of it. I'm outside of that competition of, who's smarter in this room? Who's going to have the wisdom and get the praise for it? Or who's going to have the best hair, the best makeup, the best appetizer, the best cocktail recipe, the best husband, the best job, the best kid, or the competition even for who's got the most difficult kid, because I've gotten into rooms where those are the competitions. Who's got the most miserable life right now and who's going to win at that? And we're so busy competing with one another or worrying about being judged and so in our own heads that we miss the gift of the mirror that we can be for one another. And I was at dinner last night with two women I call my Reiki sisters because we went through Reiki level 2 training together, and that's how we met. And we very quickly got to a very real place with one another. I don't think any of the three of us were even interested in something superficial. We weren't about taking time to get to know one another. In fact, with one of them, we met for coffee within a week of meeting each other, and we got there when the coffee shop opened in the morning, and literally at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they were saying, we're closing now. And all we did was keep ordering coffees. We didn't even eat. We just kept ordering coffees and telling each other our stories. And we fast-tracked a 10 years of probably relationship in one day. We never said, okay, let's sit down and be real. We just started. And we started to create that connection with one another that felt safe. And how did that happen? She told me a story and was vulnerable. And then I shared a story and was vulnerable. And then we sat and we listened to what the other one had to say. We found connections and we found threads that tied together our hearts. And it was one of the best days of my life. And then, afterwards I was like, I'm going to yoga. or meditation. It was meditation. I'm going to meditation. Do you want to come? And she literally jumped like a little girl in this, like in the street by our cars, and said, "Yes, I will meet you there." And then that very moment, when we were done with meditation and we were walking out, our third Reiki sister, whose number we didn't get because she had left before we had a chance to do that, was walking in to the same yoga studio. We didn't even know we all belonged to the same place. And the rest is history. And we were at dinner last night. And we're just sharing. We are being so honest with one another about ourselves, but also on our take on what the other person is sharing. And we said hard truths. You know, we didn't sugarcoat with one another. If we saw a blind spot, we pointed it out to one another. And we said, "Do you see what I'm seeing? Does this sound true to you at all? Does this feel like it could be true? Do you need to sit with this? Do I?" And it was so safe, and it was so nurturing, and it was so beautiful. And we sat there for 4.5 hours at dinner, just sharing our hearts. And I woke up this morning feeling clearer, feeling seen, feeling heard, knowing I'm not in this alone. I'm not. I mean, I have my husband and I love him so much, but he's not a woman. You know, he's not struggling in the same emotional capacity with these things that women struggle with, like relationships with their sisters, relationships with their, I mean, maybe he's struggling in the same way with relationship with spouses. I didn't really have much to share on that. We're in a great spot right now. But sharing, like, we're getting older. What are we doing? I mean, did we talk about our sex lives? We did. Did we talk about our children? We did, our aging parents. But what we really talked about is how all of those things made us feel. The shame spirals that some of these things created in us, the fear, the loneliness, the confusion, the frustration, the humor, all of it. Callie says hi. We went into all of those things so many times. You know, oh, I read this book. They said this insight. But if we aren't being real with one another as women, we're never going to get to that place where they can hold up the mirror and we can go, holy shit, I didn't even see that. I didn't even know. That was such a blind spot. Thank you so much for saying it, because I couldn't see it. And that is beautiful. Conversely, yesterday, I was judging something. My apologies. My kitty cat, she likes to be seen. She likes to be seen. But anyhow, conversely, I went to judge something yesterday, a high school competition. A friend of mine asked that she runs this program if I could do, and it was a business-related thing. So I didn't know anybody. I'd never done this before. My friend was, I mean, there was a lot of people there. She's nowhere to be found. So I'm waiting in the hallway to get my assignment, and this other woman from my same town, same school system, introduces herself to me, and we get talking. And I don't do small talk. I just don't. I go real fast. And so we go real fast. And so, you know, I tell her a little bit about my story. She tells me a little bit about her story. I start to ask her questions. Within 30 minutes of meeting her, this lovely woman, so smart, so accomplished, she tells me how lonely she is, how inadequate she feels, how she questions so many things in her life, decisions she makes, parenting decisions, all the things, how her career had masked her for so long. She doesn't, and she's early retired. She doesn't know who she is. And she looks around at the people who didn't do that, and she's sharing her heart with me. And she says to me, women don't talk like this. I feel so alone, because I was like, I hear you. I was there 3 years ago, the same place. Add in, an extra 170 pounds and all that comes into the shame spiral with that, like, I feel you. I see you because I am you. I was you. And we got to a depth that I know I needed. And I'm going to venture to say she also needed, because she said, nobody talks about this. You feel like you're the only one. Why don't we talk about it? Why do we hold back? Why do we mask? How is the mask keeping us safer than the connection would? Why do we think that's the truth? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know physiologically where the F we ever thought it's safer to stay hidden than to share who I really am and let other people hold me in that space. Yeah, there are going to be people that burn you, but they're going to burn you with the mask or without it. They're going to burn you either way, but they're also going to be the people who hold you, who love you, who want to be there with you. Why are we so busy hiding from those people or putting out a fake version of ourselves to stay safe? Why do we walk into rooms where we know we don't belong and try to fit instead of finding the rooms where we do belong? Why do we do that? Do we always think the thing that makes us us is wrong? So let's become what someone else is to be right. Why do we do that? Why can't we stop that? I stopped that. And I've never been happier. Now, did I go through a period of loneliness? Absolutely, I did. As I was shedding what was no longer mine and moving into what had been waiting for me, there was this void space. I was in the liminal. And I had a lot of questions that, did I do the right thing? Is it worth it? Is authenticity worth it? My nervous system knew what it had in the past, and it was very nervous for what was coming in the future. It didn't trust it. It kept trying to get me to go back. It kept trying to get me to eat, to be that performative person that everybody liked, that funny fat friend who was larger than life, literally, but wasn't a threat because she didn't shine too bright. But she was sure entertaining. Those were the people I gravitated towards. Why did I do that? Because I thought those bright, shiny people in and of themselves were somehow better than me. And if I could just get a little bit of their magic to rub off on me, then I would feel worthy too, instead of finding my own worth inside of me. There was nothing wrong with those friends. There was nothing wrong with those people. It was who I was around them that was wrong. And they reflected that back to me. And finally I saw it. I created these rules and a role that wasn't true. It was false. And so when I started to become authentic, we were no longer a match. No blame on them. It was me. No blame on me, right? Nobody has to be at fault to find alignment. Nobody has to lose so somebody else can win. It's okay to say, this isn't my reality anymore. And what is meant for me will stay from that past reality, and what isn't will fall away to create space for what is. But if I am not willing to be open to it, if I'm not willing to make those connections, if I am not willing to be vulnerable and transparent and let myself get hurt if I get hurt, but let myself have amazing joy, connection, love, acceptance for myself, I don't need it from other people. I don't have to go be a version of myself to fit into rooms I don't belong in. I can just show up as me. And when the mirror is presented, say, thank you. I needed that. And you can too. You can too. But it is hard and it takes courage and your nervous system will fight you. But are you lonely? Do you feel unseen? Do you feel like your voice doesn't matter? That nobody in the world knows who you are? That nobody talks about the pain or the fear or the joy or the confusion? And you long for that. I'm not seeking out people to sit around and feel sad with all the time. We laughed and laughed and laughed last night. The woman I met yesterday, we laughed and laughed over some things. You can have both. The joy and the pain. The fun and the vulnerability. It doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be black or white. It doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to be real. We get one wonderful, crazy, wild round in this life. Why are we wasting it being a version of ourselves we don't recognize when we look in the mirror? So I am wanting to encourage you, if you are on a journey of transformation, and since this is a weight loss channel, you probably are, or at least wanting to start one. What about here? What about the transformation here? What about showing up as your fiercely authentic self and just effing around and finding out? What happens when you do that? What happens when you stop playing the roles and you start showing up as who you really are? You stop hiding the things you think will cause people to reject you and instead give them an opportunity to love you. You. Not the one you show them, but you. How about you start doing that for yourself? Because the ultimate betrayal is the betrayal we do to ourselves every time we hide who we really are. Because we are saying, every time we do that, I'm not good enough. If I showed up as me, you wouldn't like it. No amount of physical transformation is going to undo that message psychologically. That's where healing needs to begin. Showing up and starting to trust other people to see you, even if it's a baby step, even if it is you stop pretending to like a show you don't like, but you act like you do. Or you stop pretending I'll just leave it there. Stop pretending. In one new way today, can you just stop pretending? Can you just say, you know what, I've never actually really cared for that. It's not really one of my favorite things. You know, quick example. I'm on a girls' trip with 3 friends, and we were trying to figure out where we're going to go to dinner. You know, and I'm on a journey, and we are getting ready to go on a cruise. And this is the day before. We're, you know, taking a little side trip before the trip, and everybody wanted to go get Italian. And there were so many other food options. I don't really prefer Italian. I mean, I will eat it. I mean, I was just in Italy. I will eat Italian food. It's not that I've got a strong aversion to it. But when we're around all these other foods that are not Italian, I would prefer not to have Italian. And other people had spoken up, like, no, I don't want to go to that restaurant. It's too fancy. I don't want to do fancy. I don't want to go to that one. All it has is seafood. I don't want to do all seafood. Okay, well, I didn't want to do Italian. I easily could have said, sure, that's fine. Let's go do the Italian. But I first pulled it up. This was like a true Italian restaurant. Probably would have been amazing. But there were no other options. Like, I was going to have to do something that had pasta, even if it was chicken with pasta. And I could pull out the chicken. I know that. But you know what? I would have liked to have gone for seafood. But when somebody said, please no, not all seafood, most of the restaurants were, I was like, okay, fair enough. So why would I give in and be the people pleaser and go ahead with the Italian instead of speak up and say my truth? So I did. So I said, you know what? We're getting ready to go on this cruise. I've worked really hard to make sure I'm at a weight I'm comfortable with before I go into this cruise. I don't really want to undo it on Italian food the night before. Is it okay if we just look for something else? I mean, if we can't find anything else, let's talk. But is there another option? Because really, it's not my favorite food. We're in a town full of great food options. Could we find something else? And you could tell there was a little resistance because everybody was really on board for the Italian. But then they were like, okay, sure. So we ended up finding a place literally right next door. We sat outside on the water. They had really great food options for all four of us. Great drink options for all four of us. We had the nicest night, got the prettiest pictures, and loved it. And it ended up being really, really great. And that would have been a moment that didn't happen. Another beautiful moment might have happened, but that moment wouldn't have happened had I not just said my truth. Small things like that. Small things. That's a very small way you can speak your truth and find out the world won't fall apart if you do. That's all I am saying in that example. So I'm going to spend a lot of time over the next YouTubes really going into masking. What does it look like? Why do we do it? How does it show up in very sneaky little ways? And how does that relate to our weight or a lot of the things that we struggle with on the physical side of our bodies? And this is a big one. This is a big one. Not being real, not connecting authentically, not being in groups of women where you feel safe to be you is huge. It's huge. The sooner you can find the people who celebrate who you are and you trust that, and you don't have to show up as this fake version you think they want you to be. That has nothing to do with them, by the way. That's everything to do with you. But as soon as you can stop being in that performative place and you can start trusting yourself to use your voice and the other people to be able to handle your voice and be able to be transparent and to be able to let them be transparent, judgment-free zones, but honesty-free, or honesty celebrated environments, that's when things start to really shift because you don't feel alone. You don't feel like the only one. You start letting go of the shame spirals and you start realizing, oh my gosh, this is a thread that ties us all together. We are the same. We are mirrors. I don't want to avoid the mirror anymore. I don't want you to avoid the mirror anymore. So I'm going to challenge you. Get out. Say your truth. Find a group. And be you.